Faith revealed in steps. Trust God's divine plan even when the road is miraculously uncertain. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, the land of Ur of the Chaldeans thrummed with the heartbeat of trade, spice, and the worship of the moon god Nana. Amidst the clamor, a man named Abram dwelled, a soul of integrity and fervent faith, who stood apart from the idolatry surrounding him. His heart remained tender to whispers from the unseen, and in the deep of night, he felt the divine call stirring within him, beckoning him to an unknown land. In a moment that stretched like time itself, the Lord spoke to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you." The command echoed in his soul, mingling with a desire to honor the one true God. Yet dread gripped him. How could he abandon his beloved family, the streets of Ur, and the legacy his ancestry clung to so fiercely? He was 75 years old, the weight of uncertainty heavy upon his shoulders, but the promise illuminated his heart. This call promised that he would become a great nation and that through him, all families of the earth would be blessed. With his devoted wife Sarai and his young nephew Lot, Abram gathered what little he had, the stirrings of hope igniting action despite the wild doubts brewing in his heart. Their journey to Haran offered a brief respite, a city vibrant with life where each exchange hummed with possibility. But as they pressed on towards Canaan, a grim famine struck. The land, promised as a fruitful inheritance, now lay harsh and desolate, pulling at the foundations of Abram's faith. How could God lead him to a place that now crumbled beneath their feet? With the survival of his family in jeopardy, Abram made the agonizing decision to journey to Egypt, believing that God's provision awaited even in the depths of uncertainty. There, he encountered not just external challenges but strife among those closest to him. Disputes arose between the herders of Lot and his own, a stirring reminder that even within the deepest bonds of family, the journey toward God's promise threatened to precipitate division. Amidst the turmoil, Abram understood the weight of his calling to uphold peace while surrendering to the divine design. He chose the path of wisdom, parting ways with Lot, yet the promise remained unyielding. Faint glimmers of hope flickered as God encountered him again, reaffirming that descendants would indeed be as numerous as the stars in the night sky. "So shall your offspring be," God declared, filling Abram's heart with renewed vigor and faith. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As days turned into months and the journey pressed forward, Abram felt the whispers of the divine promise intertwine with his doubts. He could hear the distant cries of faith mingling with the challenges ahead, a pilgrimage that would soon culminate in the most profound test of all. How could it be that the very son, Isaac, given through divine promise, would require sacrifice? The question loomed over him, like the stars in the heavens that bore witness to God's unwavering plan, tantalizingly unresolved. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting shadows over the land, Abram stood at the precipice of reflection. Time had worn on since he last beheld the fertile plains of Canaan, a promise shimmering like the distant light of twilight. Yet as the shadows deepened, so too did his spiritual struggle, the weight of covenant and expectation pressing heavily upon his heart. Abram, now dwelling in the land of Egypt, found himself pensive. He recalled the words spoken to him by the Almighty. "To your offspring I will give this land," Genesis 12 verse 7. Yet, here he was, a sojourner, his true inheritance still out of reach. He wandered amidst the opulence of Pharaoh's court, but the emptiness of unfulfilled promise gnawed at him. How could the father of nations walk through these golden halls without a son to share his legacy? And while the echoes of doubt reverberated within, he turned his gaze to Sarai, his beloved wife. Her beauty, a treasure in both their eyes, had drawn the attention of mighty men. In fear of losing her, a fear rooted in the uncertain favor of a ruler, Abram had earlier declared her as his sister. In that moment of self-preservation, he had forsaken the clarity of trust he had placed in God's protection. But lo! God's hand stirred, intervening even amid Abram's faltering faith. Pharaoh's heart was struck with plague, terror cloaked the chambers of power. "What is this you have done to me?" Pharaoh cried out, realizing the deception that had veiled Sarai's true identity. The plagues were a clear testament to the grace of God, who had not relinquished his hold over Abram's destiny. Pharaoh, fearing repercussions from the invisible God, enjoined Abram to take Sarai and depart from Egypt, renewing a path toward the land of promise. As they journeyed back, Abram's heart remained heavy with reflection. He had witnessed both trials and divine deliverance. His heart yearned to understand the depths of this covenant. Behold, the word of the Lord came to him, Genesis 15 verse 1, and in a vision, dark yet illuminating, the Lord spoke again, forging the covenant anew. "Fear not, Abram, for I am your shield, your reward shall be very great." Abram marveled, "O Lord God, what will you give me, for I continue childless?" The laments of his heart poured forth, exceeding the weight of his mind. "Behold, you have given me no offspring, and a member of my household will be my heir." Yet God's voice rang with tender clarity, "This man shall not be your heir, your very own son shall be your heir." Genesis 15 verse 4. The promise remained vibrant, pulsing with divine life. To help him grasp the magnitude of this assurance, God led Abram outside on a starry night. "Look toward heaven, and number the stars, if you are able to number them. So shall your offspring be." In that moment, faith ignited like a fire deep, steadfast, illuminating the shadows of uncertainty. Abram believed the Lord, and it was counted to him as righteousness. Genesis 15 verse 6. With each star an echo of divine intention, he began to see the ethereal promise unravel before him. But as the dust settled and the night settled into silence, Abram pondered on the great nation from which he would arise. "What trials await me? What paths of hardship shall walk before me?" The answers, like the stars, twinkled just out of reach. They whispered of a future cloaked in mystery, yet filled with God's faithfulness. As the promise etched itself into Abram's heart, the very air began to thrum with anticipation. But what he did not yet know was that even greater tests awaited him, wrapped in the tender yet fierce love of the one who called him. The time would come when faith would be called to its greatest challenge, revealing the lengths to which God would go to fulfill his promise. The shadows lengthened, but unfurling before him lay a divine tapestry sovereign and intricate woven into the very fabric of the earth, and the hearts of generations yet to come. As dawn broke over the horizon, illuminating the landscape with hues of gold and rose, Abram and Sarai resumed their journey toward Canaan, their hearts heavy yet flickering with hope. The events in Egypt had etched a new resolve within Abram. Each step they took still bore the echoes of divine promise, yet the path before them was fraught with uncertainty. They arrived at the altar Abram had previously built, and there he paused. Not merely to offer a sacrifice, but to seek the face of God anew. "O Lord," his voice rose as he knelt upon the earthen ground, "strengthen my faith and lead me according to your purposes. Show me the way, for I am but a wanderer and you are my guide." In the stillness of the morning air, Abram reflected on the heavy weight of the covenant. The promise felt ethereal, as if it might dissolve with the morning dew. He recalled God's words, but in the depths of his heart, doubt lingered like a shadow. Would he truly see the day when his child would run upon these very hills, echoing laughter that proclaimed the faithfulness of God? Sarai, sensing the turmoil within her husband, approached him. "Abram, my love," she said softly, "take heart, for we have seen the hand of the Almighty move among us. He is faithful, let us not allow fear to cloud our vision." Her voice was a balm, a reminder of their shared journey and the God who led them out of the familiar into the unknown. In days that followed, the land beckoned with great promise but also bore the weight of trials. Famine descended upon Canaan, a fierce tempest of fear and uncertainty. Embracing the challenge of survival, Abram made a decision to descend into Egypt once more for sustenance. In this, he wrestled with the implications. "Will my faith falter again?" he whispered to himself, the voice of his heart quaking at the crossroads of obedience and desperation. Yet as they arrived at the borders of Egypt, the echoes of doubt grew louder. The memories of his previous fears swirled like leaves caught in a tempest of doubt. What if he again lost Sarai? What if he strayed from the promise? As he approached the court of Pharaoh, history threatened to repeat itself, but the Lord would not abandon his servant. Abram defended his wife once more, albeit reluctantly. "Say you are my sister that it may go well with me." Yet within his heart, an internal battle raged. It was unclean to conceal truth, to twist the very fabric of their unity for self-preservation. Soon, God's voice emerged within him, a reminder of the covenant, the promise of offspring clear against the backdrop of deceit. As Pharaoh's house encountered obstacles again, plague struck as before, a powerful reminder of God's presence. Pharaoh, now aware of the truth, summoned Abram. "What is this you have done to me? Take your wife and go." The fear of the Lord weighed upon Pharaoh, and he released them with gifts, lest further curses fall upon him. As Abram returned, with Sarai at his side and riches in their possession, his heart began to awaken once more to the significance of their mission. "O God, teach me to trust not in the walls of a palace, nor in the promises of man, but in the unshakable foundation of your word." They traversed back toward the altar, where ancient stones stood as witnesses to their journey. Yet just as the dust began to settle, the shadows once again loomed with new trials approaching. With each obstacle lay the question that pressed upon Abram's soul: "How long, O Lord, until your promise is fulfilled?" But unbeknownst to him, God's plan was unfolding. The very journey of their faith would become the foundation for nations. The tapestry of his promise stretched far beyond the horizon, whispering of hope, sacrifice, and eventual redemption in the ages to come. As the sun reached its zenith, casting the land in a brilliant light, Abram and Sarai pressed on, their footsteps echoing on the soil of Canaan. The air was thick with the scent of promise, and yet, like clouds gathering on the horizon, doubt lay heavy in Abram's heart. The memory of their recent sojourn in Egypt lingered, overshadowed by fears of the famine looming over their homeland. Abram turned to his wife, gaze piercing through the veils of his uncertainty. "Sarai, my love, the land we tread holds the promise of God, yet I feel our sustenance waning. Shall we remain steadfast in faith or seek the provisions of neighborly lands?" Sarai, with her countenance gleaming with faith, responded, "Is not the Lord our provider? His hand has guided us thus far. Let us seek him, not the well-stocked fields of Egypt, for his plans shall unfold in his time." Thus, with renewed determination yet burdened by the trials ahead, their journey continued toward the hills of Bethel, where they would once again lift their voices in prayer and sacrifice. Abram built an altar, stone by stone, in the sacred silence of the land, each rock a testament to his growing faith, each prayer a pivotal note in the symphony of God's unfolding promise. While in prayer, the winds rose slightly, as if the heavens themselves were responding to his cries. "O sovereign Lord," he beseeched, "you who brought me from Ur, will you not nourish me in this land? Do not forsake the covenant you have made with me, for my heart unsettles where my vision falters." The stirring breeze caressed him, a gentle reminder of God's presence midst his pleadings. It seemed as if heaven was listening, weighing his tenuous faith against his fears. That very night, as stars illuminated the sky in myriad splendor, God's voice wheeled through the stillness, profound and abiding. "Fear not, Abram, for I am your shield, your exceedingly great reward. Though the seasons of your life seem barren now, know that I have a purpose in all things. Your offspring shall be as innumerable as the stars you see in the heavens." At the sound of his voice, Abram's spirit ignited with hope, for he understood the gravity of God's promise. He fell prostrate on the ground, tears streaming silently, a cascade of gratitude mixed with reverence. In that deep communion, God whispered secrets of the future: "Out of you shall come a great nation, whose blessings shall touch the corners of the earth. But first, I shall test your faith." Days turned into weeks, yet the skies remained clear, and the grains grew sparse. The sun hung heavy, the land parched, and fear returned with harsh clarity. A voice of doubt arose within Abram. What if this land cannot sustain us? What if this covenant lies beyond the reach of our grasp? Yet Sarai, fervently attuned to God's presence, sensed the weight of doubt encroaching upon her husband's soul once more. Abram, she said resolutely, we have seen his hand, let us not move in haste, but wait patiently upon the Lord. Even in uncertainty, we must remember who leads our journey. Emboldened by her faith, Abram resolved to dwell upon the promises given rather than the provocation of earthly fears. However, as they journeyed further, a new shadow approached. The land of Canaan was rife with strife among those who dwelt there. Clashes over territory resonated within the hills, and Abram found himself caught in the midst of uncertainty once more. The churning of his spirit grew as he considered the implications of remaining amidst such unrest. What would they do if disaster arose? Would the very promise of God falter under the weight of human hostility? That evening, as they nestled beneath the stars, their hearts joined in prayer. Just as dawn's light pierced the darkened sky, the message of God stirred in Abram's soul, a revelation that echoed through the ages. From within adversity shall your faith be tested, and from your lineage shall hope arise. In that moment, Abram understood, the trials he faced would fortify their faith and lay the groundwork for a legacy that spanned generations. Though he could not yet see the path ahead, he took a deep breath, declaring with fresh resolve, O Lord, I trust in your faithfulness, for though I cannot yet comprehend the depths of your plan, I will wait upon you. As they moved onward toward the hills of Canaan, the whisper of God's abundant promise lingered in the air. Little did they know, the very trial that was unfolding would serve not only to shape their own destinies but also to fulfill the blueprint of a nation yet to be born, marking the beginning of a covenant that would resound through eternity. And thus, the question remained, reverberating through the silence, what monumental future lay ahead, as the story of Abram was only just beginning to unfurl. As dawn broke, the shadows of the night yielded to a new resolve in Abram's heart. He and Sarai journeyed onward, their faith a steady flame amid the encroaching darkness of uncertainty. The hills of Canaan stretched before them, adorned with the quiet beauty of promise yet unfulfilled. Abram was reminded of God's words, which swirled in his spirit like fragrant incense, igniting a fire within him. From within adversity shall your faith be tested. They arrived at a sojourn in a valley, where the whispers of a restless wind stirred the grasses, echoing the tension that resided within the land. There, they encountered the inhabitants of the region, tribes entwined in strife, each vying for their grasp on a land declared by God to Abraham and his descendants. Abram, perceiving the discord that vibrated through the air, gathered his thoughts, yet all around him the world seemed tumultuous. Yet amid the chaos, a thought settled within him, as if a moss-covered stone lay low amid the rolling hills. He would seek peace within this land. Thus, he approached the leaders of the local tribes, speaking with a voice rich in conviction, let there be no strife between us, for we are brethren. The land is spacious, and I seek only what the Lord has promised. Sarai, sensing the potential for conflict around them, prayed earnestly, her eyes turned toward heaven for guidance. In that moment, a flicker of divine insight stirred within her heart. Could we not seek unity amidst division? Could your lineage, O Father of many nations, not emerge as a source of blessing even now? With these words, Abram stood resolute. The path toward unity amid discord felt fraught with danger yet shone with the glimmer of hope. If my journey is to bear fruit, it must begin here and now, even in the midst of these trials, he declared. The leaders, taken by the sincerity of Abram's heart, agreed to set aside their differences. The tension eased, the promise of peace settling like dew upon the parched land. Together they feasted, acknowledging one another as allies rather than foes. Yet the land's bareness gnawed at Abram's spirit still. As days passed, his fingers sifted through the earth, barren and dry, but his eyes remained steadfastly upon the heavens. He sought God's affirmation, longing to grasp further the magnitude of the promise spoken, your offspring shall be as the stars. One night, beneath the canvas of a painted sky, God whispered anew to Abram. Count the stars, if you are able. So shall your seed be. Abram gazed upward, the vastness of the sky reflecting his own longing heart. "O Lord," he cried, "yet my wife Sarai remains barren, and my years lengthen. How can these words be true?" God responded with tender assurance, "My covenant stands firm, and in due season, you shall see it fulfilled. Trust that even your greatest trials shall serve to sharpen your faith." In that sacred moment, deep hope cascaded through Abram's soul, and he kneeled in reverence. He spoke aloud of his faith, transcribing it upon the very soil that felt desolate, declaring, "I shall not waver, for your promises are sure." Little did he know, as he offered his faith unto God, that within Sarai's womb lay the seed of destiny, awaiting the appointed time for life to break forth. The land awaited the manifestation of a great nation, and every trial they endured was an intricate thread in the rich tapestry of divine purpose. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the valleys, a question loomed in the dusk: what miracle awaited around the corner, as God's sovereign plan unfurled like a banner across time? What legacy awaited those who dared to trust when the path was uncertain? As dawn kissed the horizon once more, Abram awoke with fervor, his spirit enkindled by the promise yet to blossom. He ventured outside, drawn by the beauty of creation surrounding him, and the morning dew glittered like diamonds upon the grass. He marveled at the landscape, yet a whisper of sorrow lingered as he pondered the barrenness that echoed through his home and within his beloved Sarai. "Lord," he implored as he surveyed the glistening terrain, "when shall the fruit of your promise sprout forth? When shall laughter arise from our tent?" In that moment of heartache, a figure emerged from the shadows near an ancient oak. It was Melchizedek, king of Salem and priest of the Most High God. With an air of divine authority, he approached Abram and bore bread and wine, the symbols of sustenance and covenant. "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth," Melchizedek proclaimed, raising his hands in reverence, "and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand." Abram, heartened by this unexpected meeting, offered a tithe of all he possessed. Blessed be he, for such providence cannot go unacknowledged. The spiritual resonance of their communion deepened the faith in Abram's heart, confirming the unshakable bond of God's covenant. But even in this sacred moment, doubts crept silently like shadows at dusk. "Is this gift of peace a sign of your promise, O Lord? Can this assurance banish my sorrow?" he whispered. Melchizedek, discerning the turmoil in Abram's heart, placed a hand upon his shoulder. "The Lord shall bring forth life from the ashes of despair, for he is faithful to his word. You are not alone in this journey, the heavens bear witness to your trials and triumphs." With renewed purpose, Abram looked out over the land, realizing its promise was not merely in its fertility, but in the covenant laid before him, a lineage that would see the glory of God manifested through the threads of faith woven even through struggle. Days stretched into weeks as Abram continued to dwell among the tribes. He sought opportunities to embody the peace of God, engaging in acts of kindness and humility. His heart swelled as he witnessed the community around him beginning to unite in shared purpose, influenced by his steadfast trust in the Lord. Sarai, meanwhile, observed these changes, feeling an ember of hope igniting within her own heart. She saw the way her husband embraced the future and believed anew in our God, who draws from nothing and creates wonders. In prayer and contemplation, Sarai felt the stirrings within her womb, a longing that echoed Abram's faith, a small flicker of promise condensing into reality. One fateful evening, as they prayed in the quietude of their dwelling, a voice pierced through the stillness. "Abram. Sarai. Your names shall be changed, for your destinies are intertwined with my divine purpose." The air thickened, reverberating with the weight of prophecy. "You shall be called Abraham, the father of many nations, and Sarai will become Sarah, the mother of kings." As they fell to their knees in awe, the enormity of the promise washed over them like a tide. Though their path was unclear and the miracle yet hidden, the fragrant assurance lingered in the air, a reminder of the unfolding plan that would reach far beyond their immediate vision. Yet, even as their hearts brimmed with faith, shadows whispered uncertainty, for the road ahead would demand more than mere belief. How could they, at their age, witness the fruition of such promise? What trials lay in wait? Thus, as they joined in fervent prayer and unyielding hope, a lingering question echoed in the chambers of heaven: what greater miracle awaited as the sands of time slipped through the hourglass, revealing the depths of God's sovereign hand in the unfolding tapestry of existence. As the dawn broke on the horizon, a luminous pearl of promise painting the sky, Abraham rose from his sleep. The night's wonders had resurrected dreams within him, yet the shadow of uncertainty loomed. He turned to Sarah, whose countenance bore both strength and vulnerability, and felt the weight of their shared promise. "Sarah," he spoke softly, "the Lord has called us to be more than we can fathom. But how shall we, aged and weary, claim what he has declared?" Sarah, in her wisdom, replied with a gentle smile, "Abraham, did the Lord not bring forth light from darkness? I will trust in his word. We shall wait, even in our aching hearts." Time passed like grains of sand, the seasons shifted, enveloping the land in breezes carrying whispers of hope and despair. Abraham determined to hold fast to the promise, speaking words of faith among the tribes. Yet within, doubts danced relentlessly, igniting a silent tempest. One night, as the stars twinkled like scattered seeds across an endless field, Abraham laid under the heavens, contemplating the divine narratives written in each star. The familiar voice of the Lord once more pierced through the tapestry of silence. "Look toward heaven and number the stars, if you are able to count them. So shall your offspring be." Abraham's heart swelled as the promise reverberated anew within him. He believed, even when disbelief hovered like a persistent cloud. "O Lord," he offered, "your words are life and light, and I cling to them." All at once, a surge of conviction filled him, a righteous belief that they would not be without descendants. In their quarters, Sarah uplifted her spirit through prayer, offering her every worry and longing to the Lord. "Blessed are you, O Sovereign One, who knows the depths of my heart. I seek your will above my own." As days turned into months, Sarah's resolve began to crumble beneath the weight of the years. One evening, she approached Abraham, her brow furrowed with silent turmoil. "What if God's promise was not for me? Yet again does my heart ache with silence." Abraham, sensing the struggle within Sarah, took her hands in his. "Sarai, the Lord sees our plight. He is faithful even when our vision is clouded. Perhaps we must seek his counsel anew, for his plans are often shrouded in mystery." Then, in her desperation, Sarah suggested a plan that weighed heavily on her heart. "Perhaps I am to bear a child through Hagar, my maid. Let the promise arise from this seed." Abraham listened, conflicted. "Shall we strive in taking matters into our hands? Let us seek the Lord's guidance." Yet, the longing for a child loomed larger than their fears. That very night, the Lord appeared again, casting a light into the chambers of their spirits. "Abraham, your wife Sarah shall bear you a son, and you will call his name Isaac. Establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant. Fear not, for I am with you." Abraham, with his heart soaring and trembling, cast a glance at Sarah. Her eyes met his, a torrent of recognition flashing between them. There, amid the elemental challenge, renewed hope ignited. Yet, the path was steep, and the tribulations of faith were yet to unfold. How would they navigate this profound challenge together? What sacrifices awaited them on the path of divine fulfillment? As the stars glimmered above, they committed their hearts anew to the sovereign hand of God, uncertain yet hopeful. In that sacred stillness, they surrendered to his purpose, even if the road was paved with trials yet unseen. What divine revelation awaited them next, and how would God's promise weave through the threads of their lives, connecting all generations to come? The heavens held their breath, and the tapestry of redemption began to unfold in ways beyond their understanding. In the days that followed the divine declaration, a stillness settled over Abraham and Sarah, yet within them surged a fervent anticipation. As the sun wove golden threads through the early morning mist, their thoughts remained bound to the promise, echoing in the chambers of their hearts. Abraham, stirred by newfound hope, rose before dawn, pondering the faithfulness of God. He walked beneath the ancient oaks, his spirit seeking the assurance that comes through prayer. With every step, he recalled the Lord's words, a sacred vow that shined like the sun upon the land. He cried out, "O Lord, I uphold your promise. Lead me and speak the truth of your covenant." Upon returning to the tent, he found Sarah kneeling, her lips moving silently in prayer. Her face radiated a tranquil glow, a reflection of their shared covenant with the Almighty. "Abraham," she spoke, lifting her gaze, "I feel the Lord's presence drawing near, a whisper of assurance. He shall deliver upon his word, I believe." Yet, as her voice faltered momentarily, a shadow crossed her brow, a fleeting glance of doubt. "But how, in our frailty, can we bear what seems impossible?" With resolve, Abraham took her hands once more. "In our weakness, he is made strong," he gently reminded her, recalling the promise given to them both. Just as they had been called from Ur, so too were they called to walk this path of faith. Days turned to weeks, and each moment filled with the weight of longing as they waited. The people of the land began to notice the aging couple, whispers of skepticism coursing through the household. Have they lost their reason? Where is the fruit of their faith? Yet Abraham held firm in the midst of judgment and ridicule, hoping against hope. Then, one evening, as dusk embraced the world, a visitor came to their tent. 3 men stood before them, radiant with a heavenly light. Abraham's heart quickened, for the manner in which they approached bore the weight of reverence. "Go quickly," one of them proclaimed, "and prepare a feast. For we are here to declare that in the solemnity of next year, you shall see the promise fulfilled. Sarah your wife will bear you a son." At this word, Sarah, overhearing from the entrance of the tent, laughed softly, a sound mingled with disbelief and joy. "After I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also?" The Lord, who had remained in the form of one of the visitors, turned his gaze directly upon her. "Is there anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will return to you, and Sarah shall have a son." An astonishment enveloped Sarah's heart as conviction settled deep within her. She remembered the promises, the unwavering certainty of God's plans that danced in the very fabric of her being. In the following weeks, the burden of worry began to lift like morning mist, replaced by a blooming hope, the miraculous intertwining of faith with what had been thought lost. Each day brought a sense of divine expectancy, and they began to share laughter, their hearts in sync with the faith that had been tested. Yet the challenges ahead loomed like mountains. Would they truly trust in the divine timing for the fulfillment of God's word? In their hearts, a whisper arose, a sweet crescendo of faith amidst the trials yet to come. And as they looked to the horizon where the sun kissed the earth, they wondered, what further mysteries of God's sovereign plan lay hidden beyond the veil of tomorrow? For in this journey of faith, the greatest revelations were yet to be unveiled. As the seasons began to change, the air around Abraham and Sarah was filled with anticipation. The sun rose with an unbroken promise over the horizon, bathing the world in a captivating glow. Each morning, Abraham would rise and seek the Lord, fervently praying for clarity and strength, while Sarah shared the weight of hope that occupied their hearts. One day, as Abraham tended to his flocks under the vast canopy of the sky, he felt a stirring within him. The Lord's promise had been spoken, yet the years of waiting had rendered him weary. He pondered with earnestness, "O Lord, how shall I believe in the promises yet unseen? When shall your wondrous work unfold before us?" In that moment, the Lord spoke to him. It was a soft yet powerful assurance that flowed like a river upon his spirit. "Fear not, Abraham, for I am your shield, and your reward shall be very great." The words penetrated Abraham's heart, illuminating the shadows of doubt that threatened to overshadow his faith. Abraham fell to his face, enveloped in reverent awe. "O Lord, what shall you give me, seeing I go childless? For the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus." He felt the weight of his words and the enormity of his longing. Yet in that sacred space, God revealed his plan more clearly. "Look toward heaven, and number the stars, if you are able to number them. So shall your offspring be," the Lord declared, each word a solid rock in the foundation of Abraham's faith. And then Abraham believed the Lord, and it was counted to him as righteousness. The bond of trust united them, the covenant unfolding like a tapestry spun from divine promise. Yet, as the days turned to months and then years, the silence became deafening. Sarah, witnessing the passing of time and feeling both the joy and sorrow waged war within her, approached Abraham one evening, her heart heavy. "Behold now, the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Perhaps I shall give you my maid, Hagar, to bear children, that I may obtain children by her." Though this proposal sparked a myriad of emotions, the promise felt distant to his heart. "Shall I rise from the honor you've bestowed upon me, my beloved?" He spoke gently to Sarah. "For the Lord has said, your heir shall come from your own body." In their longing, yet driven by desperation, they yielded to the plans of men rather than waiting on the Lord. Hagar was taken as a wife, and soon she bore a son, named Ishmael. But this act stirred a tumult of struggles within the household, a spirit of contention brewing where once peace had reigned. Days passed, turning into months, and the laughter of the child echoed within the tent, yet it brought neither the fulfillment nor the joy they had sought. There was a heartbroken ache that gnawed at their souls while they waited for God's promise to unfold. Then, one fateful night, as Sarah lay restless beside Abraham, the Lord once again made himself known. A voice as gentle as a whisper reached them. "You have taken a path not written by my hand, yet I remain steadfast in my promise. Rejoice, for I have not forgotten you." Abraham sat upright, heart racing. What new revelation awaited them? What were the consequences of their actions in pursuit of a child when they had been asked only to trust? For in the deep tapestry of God's sovereign plan, where the heart of man sometimes falters, there lies a greater purpose and divine orchestration. Their journey of faith, imperfect yet earnest, had yet to guide them beyond what they could see. They pondered, what was next in this divine adventure? Would they trust wholly, with every fiber of their being, as God prepared to unveil the greater tapestry of hope and redemption that lay just ahead? Time, it seemed, would tell, but hope lingered like an ember, refusing to fade. After years of waiting, the dawn heralded a moment much awaited. As the sun cast its golden rays over the land, a profound silence surrounded Abraham and Sarah, a hushed anticipation enveloping their hearts. The air thrummed with divine promise, tinged with the fragrant hope of a miracle on the verge of unfolding. One evening, as Abraham completed a day's labor among his flocks, he felt the urgency of presence surrounding him. In a moment of expectant stillness, he paused and gazed skyward, his heart heavy yet anchored on the covenant God had spoken. Then, like a symphony echoing through the heavens, the voice of the Almighty reverberated in the sacred space of his spirit, "Abraham, this time next year, Sarah shall bear you a son." In that instant, disbelief mingled with joy stirred within him, a tumult of emotions wrestling for supremacy. Could this truly be? Would the promises once believed but clouded by years of waiting finally coalesce into the tangible reality of life? He clasped his hands and breathed in the weight of the moment, hope igniting like incense rising before the throne of grace. And so, the year spiraled forward, a year of tension and anticipation. Each sunrise brought them closer, and with every sunset, the promise glimmered in the distance like a far-off star dimly shining. Abraham often sought God in places sacred beneath the oaks, near the altar he had raised, whispering, "Grant me faith, O Lord, that I may see the fruition of your covenant." Sarah, too, felt the tremors of expectancy thrumming within her heart. In the quiet of her tent, she nurtured secrets of longing, her thoughts cycling between laughter and longing. Then, in a moment caught between heart and breath, the time approached. The very air throbbed with the essence of divine timing. When the promise came to fullness, Sarah bore a son, and they named him Isaac, just as God had commanded. The name, meaning laughter, resonated with the joy that escaped her lips, the joy of one who had walked in shadows and now danced in light, proclaiming the faithfulness of God. Abraham, overwhelmed with gratitude, built an altar in celebration, where the flames danced heavenward. "O Lord, how great is your faithfulness! he declared, tears mixing with laughter. "You have turned my sorrow into joy and my barrenness into abundance." They feasted in this great joy, sharing the news that God had indeed kept his promise, establishing a lineage that heralded blessings beyond understanding. The shared laughter of family echoed through the hills of Canaan. It was not merely a son but a manifestation of God's covenant with Abraham. The cup of joy overflowed, yet God's sovereignty whispered of lessons unlearned and trials yet to face. For the journey of faith was marked with more than jubilations, it bore the weight of sacrifices and teachings. As Isaac grew, God reminded Abraham of the depth of his trust. Once, on a starlit night, the burden of sacrifice surged in Abraham's heart. The Lord called to him, "Abraham." Responding, he said, "Here I am, Lord." The air thickened, wrapping around Abraham like a blanket shrouded in mystery. "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and offer him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains that I will show you." The command fell upon him like a stone, eyes wide with disbelief and heart crumpling with anguish. "Such a command, Lord?" he murmured, stricken with confusion. The very promise, laid upon an altar? Yet, deep in his heart ran a river of faith, a quiet assurance that God's ways surpassed his comprehension. With unwavering resolve, Abraham prepared for the journey, a heart torn yet filled with obedience. The wood upon his back felt heavy, yet the promise of deliverance danced at the edge of understanding. He journeyed toward the base of the mountain in resolute silence, accompanied by Isaac, who carried the burden of wood needed for the offering. "Father," Isaac spoke, looking into his father's eyes, "the fire and the wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" The question pierced through Abraham's heart. Yet grace infused his words as he responded, "God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son." In that moment of profound faith, the revelation surged anew. As they climbed the mountain, Abraham's heart grasped the essence of sacrifice. Just as they reached the summit, the clearest of clouds shadowed with divine revelation hung about them. Abraham built the altar, laying Isaac upon it as tears welled confines of his trust. Just as the knife glittered in the sun, the divine voice broke through the silence, "Abraham, do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God," a reaffirmation of faith through trials uncounted. Through obedience and immense faith, God unleashed higher truths, providing a ram caught in the thicket. Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the ram. The provision of God stood as evidence that from sacrifice arises the ultimate in divine purpose. Abraham rejoiced, understanding that God's intentions were always to lead toward redemption, not destruction. Through each challenge, faith shone brighter, illuminating avenues of hope that would stretch endlessly across generations, forever transforming doubt into reality, trials into testimonies, and in every turn, love, unwavering like the stars that bore witness. Thus, the journeys of Abraham and Sarah birthed blessings that span throughout time, a testament to trust in the one who fulfills promises. And now, dear friends, as we embrace their story, let it be louder than mere words, let it echo within your hearts. Do you feel the call of God upon your life? This is your moment to respond. Be moved by the faithful witness of those who walked before you. It's time to embrace the journey ahead. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word, as these powerful narratives are designed to illuminate your path toward grace. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, for someone needs to hear this truth today. Comment your reflections below. How has this biblical story impacted your own faith? And shout this message into the world. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Don't wait even one more second to spread the good news that echoes through the ages.